far here at Planet?
It's been very busy. It's been nice to see you all. I've never seen so many people in one spot in the space of around 9 hours, and it's been such a pleasure to greet you, sign for you, be photographed with you, and on we go over the weekend.
Amazing. Thank you again for being here. So I'll ask a couple questions and we're going to go right to the crowd.
Great.
But I wanted to know, obviously, Palpatine is highly regarded as one of the most iconic villains of all time. I wanted to know to you, what do you think makes him such a memorable character?
Well, he's just pure evil, isn't he? I don't know, because as you know, I mean, I got acquainted with him over a long period of time. I first met him when I was 37 years old. And then I continued to my present age, I dare say, or maybe a bit older in the last film that you saw to date. So I've learned about him like you, as we've gone along and as the scripts have arrived. And as you know, we get these at the last minute. So it was always full of surprises. But I think the reason that people stick with him is that there's something about him that's more than just the usual sort of evil villain. There's a kind of hidden charm he has. You don't agree, do you? I can see that. Leave immediately. No. I think behind all that, you know, he has a fairly good sense of humor, and also he's not afraid to say what he really means. And I suppose it can best be summed up in his philosophy, which is expressed in 2 words: do it.
And obviously, working through like prosthetics and makeup can sometimes be challenging, but I was wondering for you, did it help you mentally get into character?
Yes, I'm one of those actors who really likes makeup, and also this was the most extraordinary makeup I put on to date at the beginning of Return of the Jedi, and you probably heard this, but when I saw that face, the voice sort of arrived, because he looked like a terrible reptile, an awful toad. And as you know, toads I sort of have that in their makeup, and so that's how the voice really evolved. So it went from to that kind of voice. And also great Japanese actors. They have the ability not just to speak from the larynx, which is usually where it comes from, but also to speak from the stomach. So that's over there somewhere. And I learned how to do that. And so before I knew where I was, this sort of amalgam of things had made this guy we later found out was called Palpatine.
And my final question for you, obviously you're an accomplished Shakespearean actor as well, and I was curious, do you find any Shakespeare characters are comparable to Palpatine?
Well, it's quite interesting, because I think George was aware when he started the whole idea of the series that it was going to have a kind of Shakespearean movement. It's really a story about the fall of a hero, who is, of course, Anakin Skywalker. But as far as specific characters in Shakespeare, there's a guy in Othello, and I see this production coming to Broadway with Denzel Washington and Jake Gyllenhaal very soon, and Jake will play Iago, who is one of the most evil characters that Shakespeare ever created. And he has a sort of obvious motive. He's been passed over for promotion and resents that. But there's something deeper and darker inside him. And he just sets out to destroy. So I suppose that would be an example of someone who is a bit like Palpatine. There's also Richard III, who is, again, a great iconic evil, in inverted commas, character. But he's somebody who's completely obsessed with power. And also, because he is physically disabled, he has, to compensate, a hyperactive mind. And I think as Palpatine gets older and gets, less able to move around, more infirm, the brain never dies. And I think that's what survived all the way into the rise of Skywalker, even though the body was in a pretty bad shape, as I'm sure you agree.
Amazing. All right, so we do have a microphone that's located, as we light it up. So just for time purposes, it's going to be 1 question per person, and also no requests or anything like that. So let's get started. What's your name? What's your question?
Hi, my name is Amanda. Sorry, I really like Star Wars, so.
Good.
Besides, obviously, Papa Palpy, who's your favorite Star Wars character?
Well, it has to be, where is he? He's gone. He's gone to the dressing room. Darth Vader, really. Because I made him everything he is today.
Thank you so much.
Pleasure.
What's your name? What's your question?
Mr. McDiarmid, my name is Chris, and first off, I think I'm going to speak for the rest of the crowd when I say this. Thank you very much for coming to Kansas City this weekend. It means the galaxy to us, so
We're pleased to be here.
thank you. I have a Revenge of the Sith question. So you had a 20-plus year lead up to becoming full Emperor again, so when it came time for that, did any of your co-stars like Hayden Christensen, Christopher Lee, or even Samuel L. Jackson accuse you of having too much fun, or did you have to get permission from George Lucas?
Yes. Well, everything happens with George, you know. But you know, the thing is about doing these movies. I mean, they were hard work, and it was also the beginning of the great new technology of digital technology. And so we were coping with things we'd never seen before. Like, and we were used to seeing actors, and occasionally we saw tennis balls, you know, against green screens. So it was a big adventure, and also it was slightly absurd, you know, when you're acting. Yes, yeah, that's exactly the response. When you're acting your socks off, you know, to a tennis ball, it occurs to you for a moment you might be totally insane. But then you realize it's going to look wonderful later. So you relax. But yes, the Sith gang were fun to be around. Christopher Lee, in particular, the great late Christopher, who I'd always been his #1 fan, really, as Dracula particularly. And there's an example of an actor who played, you know, an evil character, and he played a good few. But there was always something in addition to the pure evil that was, well, let's use the word, attractive. So you have to find some way, you know, even in their darkest moments, of those characters being appealing. And people regularly stop me, there's a few today, and say, Palpatine, we love you. And I think, is it too late for you to get a therapist? But then I think, well, no, I suppose it's that word charm I was teasing you with, that people love to love villains. I love to love villains as a kid. And when I started out as being an actor, I was the one who played the baddie. And little did I know I was going to be the baddie of them all.
Thank you, my lord.
Hi, what's your name? What's your question?
Hi. Sorry, can you hear me through the mask? I may or may not have called in sick this morning, so I don't want things to assume unnatural ability.
The floor's happy with you.
But my question is, what is a funny story or a favorite moment that you have had while on set filming Star Wars?
There's so many of them, really. I suppose it didn't seem that funny at the time, but it's when I hit Samuel Jackson when I was trying to fight him. And he was very kind. But I got my revenge as character, of course, by, you know, making sure he went through a window. And would never ever return, despite rumors to the contrary. That was pretty fun. Thank you.
What's your name? What's your question?
I'm Matthew. So, I have a little bit of a funny question for you.
Okay.
What is your favorite Star Wars meme?
Yes. Well, I'm not too familiar with them, really. But it was so interesting when the meme started, you know, and I thought George would like that, you know. George was thrilled. You know, he could meme away, he used to say. And it's wonderful how all the characters have become, you know, creatures of plastic, or just become cartoon fantasy characters without actually diminishing their power when you see them in the movies. So that's my general answer to your question. But maybe you'd like to suggest a meme that I might like more than the others.
I love the tragedy of Darth Plagueis the Wise.
Oh, yes. Yes, well, we all know that story, don't we? Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Hi, I'm Joel.
Hello.
You've been playing the same character for over 40 years.
Yeah, I'm still in it tonight. Sorry.
Is there any extra preparation to have that consistency for 4 decades?
Well, I don't know. It always sounds so sort of negative when I say it, but I'm just the sort of guy who learns the lines and turns up and hopes that some magic, and often it does occur on the set, will happen because of whoever you happen to be acting with. And I've acted with a lot of really good and interesting people, and most recently in the Star Wars saga, of course, with Adam Driver, who's a considerable force to act with, and Daisy Ridley, who was wonderful to act with, even though she was playing my ultimate betrayer. You know, yes, no, never trust your granddaughter, is this? I got into trouble for saying that in an interview lately, of course, but that was my sense of humor as opposed to Palpatine's. But working with Adam was wonderful. He's so concentrated as an actor. So you get, 110% in his eyes all the time. And Daisy she had to hate me, of course, but her problem was I was above her and I was flying around on this mechanism, this sort of astral wheelchair that they gave me. And she was frightened I might topple onto her head. There was no real chance of that because there were 4 guys, they'd strap me in and all the rest of it. But she said she had to concentrate. She kept saying, "Ian, are you all right?" And I said, "Daisy, this is not helping. I'm loathsome, I'm in a terrible state, I may drop dead any minute. Okay, go." She said, okay, we'll go again, I'm fine. And then J.J. Abrams would go cut and she'd go, "Ian, are you all right?" Thank you.
What's your name? What's your question?
Hello, my name is Safira.
Hi.
What advice would you give an American studying acting in London?
Would I say again?
What advice would you give an American, like myself, studying acting in London?
Advice to an American? Wow, I don't know if I'd give any advice. I'd hope they might give me some. That's what I feel about American actors. I mean, you're also brilliant here. It's in your blood, film acting, and we Brits just sort of caught up over the years, sometimes. And then we have the nerve, some of us, to impersonate your American accent. And get leading American parts in American series. I mean, who do we think we are? So I would be hoping for advice in the other direction.
Thank you.
you.
What's your name? What's your question?
My name is John. I was going to ask about how many takes in the movie when you're acting the part when you had to say, "Do it," and then strike him down. How many takes had to do that?
Yes, the Do It series of takes was quite interesting because we were, please get on and kill Christopher Lee, basically what I'm saying. And that was just, from my point of view, painful. And in his point of view, even more painful when it happened to him. But we were just, we did the scene as you do a number of times in different ways, and I sort of said do it a few times in different ways. And then, because we'd done it so many times, kind of for a joke, I went, "Do it!" For goodness sake, get on with it. And George said, "That's the one." He's clever like that.
Great, go ahead.
All right. I think you must know how much of an influence you've had on multiple generations. From my mom to me, and then I'm probably gonna pass it down to my own children. How do you kind of cope with the thought that even after you're gonna be gone from this world,
I'm still alive. It's all right. I'm in pain now. Go on.
that you're gonna be still a big proponent for a lot of young people and older people as well.
Yeah, what I like about the movies is that, you know, they're still as potent now, and of course there are more of them, as they were then, you know, when we all started out. And I wasn't sure that would necessarily be the case. Wise George said about prequels, he said, well, those are people who grew up, people like himself really, with the middle films, you know, with the first three that were made, will still feel that the early ones, the prequels, aren't good enough. But the kids, by which he meant, I think, anyone from the age of 8 upwards, would appreciate them more. And we all went, well, maybe right. And of course, he was dead right. And sort of the younger people told people of my generation how to watch them and what they might be missing if they were just, you know, generalizing about how much less interesting they were than the middle three. And now I, you know, from people I know who are very young, other people's grandchildren, I learned that they love watching them, and of course they can watch them in sequence, which was always denied us. Even though some people still prefer to go to the middle and back to the beginning and then on to the end again. But I think, yeah, but I think it must be really interesting just to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
Thank you.
Hey, what's your name?
Hi, my name is Gabriel, and my question is, what was your favorite moment from Star Wars?
Favorite moment? Yes, there were so many of them, really. My favorite scene was certainly Darth Plagueis the Wise, because that started off, that was going to be another scene in the office, in another very spectacular office. And the thing about Palpatine's offices, they got bigger. I mean, there wasn't too much green screen. Of course, there was green screen out of the window. But the offices themselves were big, big sets. And for that scene, that was going to be played on an even bigger set because he was getting more powerful. And apparently, more powerful people get bigger offices. I didn't know that. I learned that on Star Wars. That's interesting. But then George said, you know, I won't do his voice again because he does it better than me. When we came to do that scene, George said, I have an idea. I think maybe we should do it in a theater. And, you know, you might like that, Ian, because you run a theatre. I did run a theatre at that time, and you're a theatre actor. And the great thing about that was that we were in chairs not unlike this, actually, with nothing behind us. Everything was added later. Hayden was there, I was here. And we just had each other's eyes. But because we were in front of a performance, a squid ballet, if you don't mind, we could talk to each other and, you know, have other thoughts while we were apparently looking at the performance. So it was a sort of gift, you know, as an actor to be able to do that. And that's why it was probably my favorite scene. And in that, there's a moment where I think Palpatine really gets him. I mean, the young man is already going, as it were, to the dark side. There's something in him that's going in that direction anyway, and when Palpatine plays on that and uses it, and when he does this quite simply at one point, not from a Jedi. In other words, you better give all that good stuff up if you want to be as powerful as I know you want to be and join the dark side. And I was able to do those both things I've just been describing. Watch the show and watch him out of the corner of my eyes. So that would be the moment.
Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Alex, and first off, thank you so much for coming here. This has meant everything to me. I wanted to ask, after Star Wars, there was a long period of time where you weren't in movies, and then you came in at Lost City of Z. And I was kind of curious about how you got back into that, and what kind of made you come out of that after, you know, the perfect film retirement is Palpatine from the prequels.
Well, it's so interesting because, I mean, I said this before, but you know the phrase, third time lucky. I got lucky 3 times. First of all, when George asked me to play the Emperor in Return of the Jedi, Then he asked me to play Palpatine, the younger politician, before he became the emperor. And then JJ resurrected me. And each time it was a surprise. So I know very few actors in other situations. I mean, people have returned to series and so on, but who've had that opportunity to, in other words, certainly as far as the prequels are concerned, to regress in order to progress. So that's been a fascinating, unique journey. But each time I got the telephone call, it was a surprise and an excitement. And also because I was beginning to know who this person was. Although George never gave away any secrets. He just let me discover it for myself. I mean, when we, just before we started, yeah, it was that close. The Phantom Menace, happy anniversary, Phantom Menace. Just before we started that, and we had a brief chat when he said, you know, do you want to come back? I knew obviously that Palpatine was going to turn into the character I later played, but he kept talking about this other guy, and I thought this sounds a bit more interesting than Palpatine. And he was called Darth Sidious, and at that time I didn't know it was me. I didn't know it was me until I saw it on the call sheet, and I thought, no, they don't make mistakes like that. That must be me. And then nobody really knows anything until, you know, the secret's revealed. And when, I think there might have been a showing of Phantom Menace before the premieres, but Liam Neeson, you know, when we bumped into each other, I think it might have been the London premiere, said, "Oh my God, it's you bastard." He meant I was playing a bastard, he wasn't joking. A very nice guy. Has his Irish ways, I have my Scottish ones, you know. But yeah, I hope that answers a bit of your question.
Thank you so much.
All right. Oh, what's your name? What's your question?
My name is Logan. What's your favorite Star Wars movie to act in?
I can answer that straight away, and that was Revenge of the Sith. Because of all the things I said, you know, and also I had more lines to speak and more to do. You know. And we actors always like that. Although you can do quite a lot of work with not very much, you know, that too. But I suppose the one I have to be grateful for is Return of the Jedi. You know, when I first played the monster, even though I had no real idea what was going to happen. And even as I was playing it, frankly. Yeah, the honest answer to your question is Revenge of the Sith. And also my gang gets their name in the title.
Great question. All right. Who's next?
Thank you.
All right. What's your name?
My name's Josh, and my dad and I always connected through Star Wars and through movies. As an actor, can you speak about your opinions on how and why art connects people?
Say that again, the last bit, sorry.
Can you speak about your opinion on how and why art connects people?
Didn't quite know. Oh, I'm sorry, I just missed that word. Yes. Well, I think it's because it's, at its best, it's about something outside our everyday lives. And it works best, it's always hard for actors to talk about this because it sounds a bit pretentious and a bit mythical. It's not pretentious really, and it is a bit mythical. You know, it's a bit poetic. Because when it really works, I'm talking about, you know, all forms of art really, they strike home to the imagination. Different people respond in different ways to different things. And the power of the imagination is a wonderful, amorphous thing. But it's something we all have, and it's something we all need nourishing. So when people say, oh well, you know, there's no money for the arts, for example, there's a lot of that going on back home at the moment. And you know, money's tight, and people haven't got money for essential things. Well, when I use that word essential, I think it's also essential to stimulate the imagination. So it's always, if done responsibly, money well spent.
Thank you very much.
All right. Here we go. What's your name? What's your question?
My name is Alexia. Can I ask,
what's your favorite lightsaber duel in Star Wars?
My favorite lightsaber duel? Yes, well, the one where I nearly annihilated a certain person that we talked about early on. But no, I mean, I didn't do much of that. Did you guess? Well, you did. The guy who was my stunt double, and, stood in for a lot of the scenes that were physically, uninsurable from my point of view. He did all the work, and I did all the close-ups. That's happened. So, but to be frank about it, the best saber sequences, and they were repeated or reinvented lately, were the ones between Ewan and Hayden. Now, these guys can fight. They are brilliant swordsmen, and they work very hard to get to this. Ewan, I think, is with a lightsaber, he would be a gold medal winner at the Olympic Games. Why don't they have lightsabers? Honestly, talk about lack of imagination. Anyway, they were brilliant, and when they did the big fight in Revenge of the Sith, they worked very hard. And also, I was around when they were doing it, and they do the whole fight right through all the time, and it was completely dazzling to watch. And of course, when you see it, it's inevitably chopped up because the film is edited in a certain suspenseful way. We go back and all the rest of it. And I suggested to them that they should, when we were promoting film, they should go, what we say in England, go on the halls. In other words, they should go around and show how skillful they were at actually fighting. So those two guys in action, and it was great to see them again in the Obi-Wan series. Resume their skillful fight. And I don't think it took them too long to get back into the rhythm. But it's pretty good to watch in the movie. I assure you, watching it in person, it was entirely dazzling.
Question. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, go ahead. Hi, I'm Kaylin.
Hi.
And I think I speak for a lot of us here when I say that when we think of villains, we think of the Emperor. But more specifically, when we think of villain laughter, we think of the Emperor. So I was wondering, I know you mentioned where the voice came from, but did you have to dig deep anywhere for the laugh specifically?
Well, I do a lot of laughing in life. No, that's not a good answer. I think there's something about the evil laugh, isn't there? And and everybody sort of knows that sort of laugh. And I thought it should be sort of based on that. And they teach you at drama school not to start laughing because you probably ruin your throat, but to sort of do a consonant, something like buh. So I would go buh, and the buh kicks it out, strangely enough. And I didn't know I was going to be asked to do that, but when we were doing the sound for Return of the Jedi at a studio in London, most of the film was revoiced in those days because of the way the sound channels worked. Now, most of it's captured live, which we all prefer, of course. And I was recording with George in the studio, and his friend, Steven Spielberg, was there, and his other friend, Kathleen Kennedy, was also there. And George said, well, I think he's maybe laughing at this point. So I did what I just described to you. And Stephen said, oh my God, you're so evil. I thought, oh, I got the part. I thought, no, I got the part already. That's but yes, people ask me to do it all the time. And the most fun, of course, was when they decided to play with it, when no one knew that I was coming back from the apparent dead in Rise of Skywalker. And they played it in that little teaser trailer. And then I came on, and I was the surprise villain. And we'd all managed to keep it a secret for over a year. No one could quite believe it. And so JJ decided he'd sort of let it out slowly. And apart from the members of the cast who I worked with, mainly just Daisy and Adam, the other members didn't know. So Anthony Daniels said quite loudly, oh my God, it's you. He said, I knew I'd have some villain, but it's you, again. So that was a particular pleasure, actually.
Thank you.
All right, what's your name? What's your question?
My name's Jeff.
Hi, Jeff.
Like most of us, we listen to the music of Star Wars.
with a speaker on the window. What did you feel like when you heard the Emperor's theme from John Williams for the first time?
Oh, chills, of course. Yeah, and I think it's really Vader's theme. One must be generous about these things, right? But yes, the Imperial March that you're referring to is a pretty amazing piece of work. But all John's work on Star Wars and all the other movies and in the concert hall is pretty remarkable. And you know, he's conducting wonderful orchestras all over the world still. He's a really extraordinary musician and an extraordinary performer. And of course, people, when they see me sometimes, and they don't think I would mind, they go bum, 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 you know. So it's familiar to me, but the best thing of all was watching John conduct it with the London Symphony Orchestra. That was, I think, for Attack of the Clones, and I got to go down to Abbey Road Studios in London and watch him in action. Fantastically generous, always precise. And they would do little bits. John had the screen in front of him, you know, and he'd already, of course, written it at home to time it out. And was only really beginning to see how it was going to work with this vast, wonderful orchestra. I think probably our best orchestra, the London Symphony Orchestra. And then when the choir came in, that was something else. And he's a perfectionist, and so are the other musicians. And after they do little bits, they'd come in and listen, and they'd go, "Oh my God, this job, we're going to do it again." And George would go, "I thought it was okay, I thought it was good." No, we're going to do it again. That's the creative process at work. That's a wonderful memory too.
Thank you.
Okay, what's your name?
My name is Dan. And I would like to know what it was like to try to pray away a dragon in Dragon Slayer.
Dragon Slayer. Now there's an experience. That was my first, well, there was one movie I did before that, I'm not talking about it. But Dragon Slayer was certainly the first big movie, first big American movie, although a lot of British people were in it, that I was involved in. And there were a lot of amusing incidents on that. For a start, they couldn't get the dragon in through the dock doors. That was it. Well, they built, you know, you think he'd maybe come in about 5 sections and they could slot it together, you know, like those brooms, you know, clean the floor. But no, they built an enormous dragon, so they couldn't get his head through the door. So that was slightly delayed filming for a while. And then, of course, when I had to be incinerated, you know, it's great fun doing the movies. There was a cast of my head available for the later shot, you know. But they said, okay, this is when he goes for you, the dragon. And I noticed that everybody in the studio was getting into these white suits, you know, except me. And I couldn't, because, you know, I was playing this, you know, priest, and he wouldn't be wearing a white suit, he'd be wearing, well, you know, a monk's robe. So I was there in my monk's robe. Everybody, the cameraman, this huge sort of camouflage suit and everything, and above them was another man in a huge a huge white suit, and he had a flamethrower in his hand. And the director said, he was American too, I'll do another terrible American accent, but my apologies to you all. Here we go. I think we should just go for it, okay? Okay. Go for what exactly? My hair? Anyway, we went for it. And you know, it was like being in the hottest day on a sunny beach in Miami, except slightly worse. But anyway, they didn't frazzle my face, but it felt like it. So that was Dragon Slayer. I also had, I'm slightly hesitating to say this, but I had this line which I thought might be a little tricky, and they might want to change, but they didn't. So I said, okay, it's my job, I'll say it. And now you must instantly look on your phones and find the moment when I say, unclean beast, get thee down. I thought that might be a little problematic, but the director thought it would be entirely delightful, so it's still in the film, so entertain yourselves later.
Thank you very much.
Pleasure.
try to get through as many more as we can. What's your name? What's your question?
Hi, my name is Chris. First of all, I want to say thank you for being such a big part in the acting community and an amazing villain. As for my question, I'm actually wondering where you got the inspiration to start acting in general.
Yeah, that's an interesting question. It just sort of happened to me, I think. I was at school and they were doing a mime to accompany the choir singing Waltzing Matilda, famous, Australian song, great song. And it's sort of about a tramp, kind of long story short, who jumps into a well, but refuses to die. And the choir sings, "You'll never take me alive," said he. And they were looking around the school for somebody to play this tramp. It's interesting I've just said this because I'm about to play another tramp in England later in the year, I just realized, but I'm diverting myself here. But various people said they'd like to try out for it. And I was a shy kid, and I was the last person to try out for anything, really. But I found this hand went up. I swear I didn't do that. It sort of went up. And so I tried for it and did whatever was required. And then I got the part. And I was 10 years old. I think I was a bit competitive because I kept thinking, I could do better than these guys who had no interest in acting at all. They were playing rugby or whatever it was, or concentrating on other things. So this thing sort of happened that was within me then, and it never went away. And then when I was a kid, I used to go to what we call them we used to, they're not there anymore, in Britain, variety shows, and there were comedians and singers and dancers and so on. And my uncle was a stage manager, so I got to go and see that, and also to see what was going on backstage. And every time I go backstage, I get this kind of thrill. And even coming to talk to you tonight, we walked around the corridors, all sorts of people doing things they do, the opposite of being on the stage, being backstage. That excitement has never left me. But it was a case of it wasn't so much I wanted to be an actor, a professional actor. I sort of felt there was something within me that didn't give me the choice. It didn't say I was going to be any good or I was going to get any work, but I knew that I just had to do it, for better or for worse.
Thank you so much.
What's your name?
Franklin. Ian, I have a question. What was your favorite line in one of the Star Wars films?
Yeah, there's a good few of them, really. I suppose. Well, I've just seen, I don't think you've seen it yet, but there's a teaser trailer coming out for the anniversary production of Phantom Menace.
But my favorite line in Revenge of the Sith was...
I'm sorry? Yes, go on.
My favorite line in Revenge of the Sith was, "Henceforth you will be known as Darth Vader."
Yes, that's a good one, isn't it?
That's my favorite line.
I think that's probably a good one to prefer, really. Yeah. But I think apart from Do It, as I was saying, when you see the sequence, you've seen it many times, but when they put the things together for this trailer that's coming up, I end by saying, "Wipe them out, all of them." I like the music of that line. I like the I in white, and I like the all in all, and also he says it as Darth Sidious. He's not down there yet, he's sort of, and the way it was filmed, it's in the hologram actually. I think that lives with me.
Great question. Thank you. Go ahead. What's your name?
Hi, I'm Stephanie. Long story short, I have met Michael Rooker, and he talked about how he really loved the extensive questions, but no one really asked just simple questions. So my question is, what's your favorite animal?
My favorite animal? Oh, that's a tricky one. My instinct was to say the snake, for obvious reasons. But I think I'll go with the toad. Yeah, for obvious reasons.
Hi, this question is for my son Poe in the audience. He's wondering if you were ever a part of any gags or practical jokes or bloopers that you could share with us.
I wouldn't dream of sharing the practical joke that I most enjoyed with you here. No, I'm sorry to disappoint you, but you know, in some ways, working on movies is a continuing practical joke that actors play on each other, you know. And some of the worst people playing practical jokes are the most celebrated and brilliant actors. I think Judi Dench comes into that category. I won't tell you some of the things, you know, she plays on other people, or indeed some of the things she says, before she goes on to give completely remarkable performances. But the interesting thing about Judi, and a lot of other actors, is that they sort of do that before they go on to relax themselves. And, you know, you think, why isn't she pacing up and down, doing her lines, you know, or if she's playing, you know, a tragic character, getting together quietly in a corner. That's not how she works. She wants the minute she goes on stage for this character to take over, and everything before that to be light-hearted and relaxed, and the opposite of tense. I think that's what it is, the way it gets rid of the tensions.
Thank you.
All right, I think we have time for 2 more questions. Hi, what's your name?
Hello.
Oh, it's Darth Vader. That's what you look like under that helmet.
Hello, my name is Wesley. As an actor, when you finally see the finished film, is there a disconnect in knowing that you've acted in some parts, or are you able to enjoy it as a first-time viewer?
Well, there are times when you want to kill yourself. And you think back to that day when you got up in that classroom to audition for the Tramp, you know, and you said, you know, why didn't you get yourself a decent job? But my father used to say that. No, I don't really think so. I think one of the most interesting things about acting is what you want to do is try and surprise people, you know, with a good script, you hope. And the best thing about trying to do that is when you surprise yourself, when you don't, you're hardly aware you're acting. You know, I can put it better than that. Obviously, you learn the lines and you're doing it, you're acting, this is you, there's no question about that. But sometimes, this is more true in the theatre because you do it many times. You're on stage and you think, oh, I'm not doing it to it, it's doing it to me. There's nothing mystical about that, but it just sort of happens. And then things happen to you that surprise you about what you're doing. And with any luck, these are the best performances, because that's when the audience is most held, waiting to see what you might do next, and hoping like you to be surprised by it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we have time for 1 more question. This is going to be the final question of the panel. What's your name? What's your question?
Hey, my name is Amanda, and as a fellow Shakespearean actor, what is your dream role that you have not been cast in yet in the Shakespeare?
Well, you know, there's the big one hanging around, and if any theatre can ever afford it, and way back home it doesn't seem too likely in the immediate future, King Lear is the one that waits. And also, I'd be age appropriate, so that's a plus. Because as you probably know, he describes himself as 80 and upwards. And I'm going to be 80 and upwards in August. That's not a secret because I believe you go on the internet.
Amazing. Thank you guys. Thank you so many incredible questions.
Really
Thank you
good
for joining us here in Kansas City. Any thoughts you want to leave us with here for this weekend?
No, it's just great to be here for the first time. And it's what, you know, people said, why don't you do conventions? That was a while ago, because as you know, I do a lot, and they give me great pleasure. And I was, well, way back to that classroom experience. I am, believe it or not, here I am talking to you with a microphone. I'm a bit shy. So I was kind of hesitant about meeting fans and signing things and all the rest of it. But then I started to do it, and I realized there was a lot of pleasure around. From fans, from people who'd been with those movies all their life, or were bringing their kids up with them, and so on. And it was nice to connect with them, with you, not as the Emperor, not on the big screens of the movie, but as me. So that's been the most pleasurable thing, I think, about doing those events and talking to you here tonight, because I was a little nervous, here we go again, about coming on. And the minute I go on, I get relaxed, and that's because of you guys. Anyway, thank you. Don't forget,